Hi, I'm Wolfstar07. I am the GM of Dragon's Nest Thievery Company, and today I actually have a friend hanging out with me.
Hi, I'm Miss Radcore. I am GM of Great House Halalu.
So today I was actually going to do a thieving masterclass. Well, obviously I like to thieve, and I sort of just fell into this. I started it from back in Morrowind because Bosmers were apparently big thieving characters, and I had sticky fingers, and it just carried out through the rest of the Elder Scrolls games. And so it was kind of a natural thing for me to continue thieving in ESO, and I did it on all of my characters because they are all self-sufficient, and I'm not going to move money around. So if they want to increase their bag space, they need to work for it. So everyone thieves on my account. Some people, they plan out their thieving characters from the get-go, whether it's because they are doing it for roleplay purposes, or maybe they just want to have one character dedicated solely to thieving, like they would plan out a tank or a healer. And then other people hear that it can be lucrative and decide they want to give it a shot. So today, I'm just going to focus more on general tips for everyone. I also have a written guide that goes into more detail about like sets and other skills, other considerations, races, and stuff that that you might think about if you're actually planning this out from the start. Okay, so the first thing you should know is that thieving is a very slow grind. Legerdemain, it only goes up 20 levels, but it's not something that you can level passively like other skills. You actually have to, like if you're thieving, you'll get XP from fencing or even from pickpocketing. If you don't put any points into Legerdemain, like your base, the base number of interactions you can have with a fence is 50 items. That's 50 items either fenced to them or 50 items that they clean. You know, either one, both of them you'll get XP from. And if you're low level and you're only doing the 50 items, you're obviously only going to be able to pick up white treasures, because it's the drop rate is sort of based on your level, your skill. So you'll get about 2,000 gold a day just from thieving, without doing any kind of points into it whatsoever. So it's actually a really good way to make money when you're starting off in the game. Obviously, if you pick up like furnishings or blueprints, motifs, you know, anything that you might want to launder and then resell on a guild trader, that will increase your net income as well. You will primarily be picking up white treasures until you hit about level 10. And that's when the drop rate increases for greens and blues and purples. And they'll start dropping more frequently. And at that point, obviously your income increases from that. And you might want to consider at that point starting to put more points into Legerdemain. The first thing that you would want to look at is Trafficker. That increases how many slots you have to interact with the fence. The first point will take you from 50 slots to 110. Every other point after that is only 10 additional slots. So with skill points being a bit of a premium at times, you probably might only just want to put in that one point. Some other ways to help you with thieving is maybe consider wearing medium armor. Even if you're a mag character. Most of my characters are actually Magicka tunes. And yeah, so medium doesn't tend to work for that sort of build. But if you're thieving, maybe you should consider changing out your gear. And the reason for that is improved sneak look. You can reduce your detection radius which allows you to get closer to NPCs without getting caught, and also reduces your sneak cost, because especially if you're a Magicka toon, sneaking is going to be really stamina heavy. My main right here is a stam toon, so it's kind of negligible for me. Windwalker's probably also a good one because it'll increase your stam recovery, so that way you're not, only going 5 feet and then stopping and waiting for that to build up again. So it sort of goes hand in hand with improved hiding back from Legerdemain, because that also reduces the cost of sneak. So those three together, the medium and this one, is pretty useful if you're going to actually dedicate yourself to thieving at some point. And then obviously it's always a plus to be able to pick an NPC's pocket without getting caught. If you don't have Thieves Guild or the Dark Brotherhood DLCs, those would obviously be great investments, but if you only have Legerdemain, then the skills that you're going to be focusing on are going to be Trafficker and Lightfingers, because a lot of the good stuff that you get won't necessarily come from just like safe boxes or containers. A lot of times you'll get it from the NPCs, and you will want to be able to pick NPCs pockets really well, just because you might get something like this blueprint that I got tonight. Solitude blueprint, worth a lot. I think I can actually sell that for like 150k, so we'll see how that goes. But if you're going to pick NPC's pockets, you would do that, obviously. You're going to stealth first. Just crouch up behind them and then wait until you get... there'll be a prompt that will turn green, and that's when you would want to pick their pockets. There is sort of like a hierarchy of a difficulty, I would say, with NPCs. So like a commoner would be easier to steal from than a scholar or a noble, and both of those are easier to steal from than guards. So you would you kind of have to pay attention to like your targets, and while they may be easier to steal from, you won't necessarily get better loot from them. Like a noble, you have the opportunity to get like mirrors, like actual, like the crown mirrors. I actually got one from there once, from a noble. This wall mirror, I picked it off a noble in Alinor. So you can get good loot from there, and the loot is sort of tied to the NPCs. Incense sticks drop from priests. Guards, the only reason why anyone would pick a guard's pocket is to get the bounty sheets, which are kind of fun. There are about like 9 different kinds of them. Here's one of them. Each successful attempt at picking an NPC's pocket then lowers the success rate of your next attempt. So if your first one says you're going to have 100% success rate, then and you do actually pick their pocket, then the next time it will drop down to like 90%. Most NPCs you can pick their pockets 3 times, or like pick them twice and then kill them, because the 3rd time is gonna be on their dead body. So
pick stab is what we teach all our guildies.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. Pick stab, or if, like I had mentioned, you don't have the Dark Brotherhood DLC, which gives you access to this Blade of Woe, which is where the stab comes from, you will actually have to fight them and kill them. The reason people would prefer that you actually kill the NPC rather than just picking their pocket a third time is because the NPC will then reset at that point. You kill them, they will respawn shortly. If you just pick their pockets 3 times, that's it. There's no more getting any loot off of them. And
it's sort
people...
of the same issue as like leaving chests with like one thing in them.
Yes.
They can't respawn.
Very frustrating. So, I mean, even if you don't want to be considerate of other players and not being able to get anything off of that NPC, think about yourself. You won't get anything else from them either if you don't kill them. And they do tend to respawn pretty quickly. So, kill them, wait a couple minutes, and they will probably come alive again, and then you can pick their pockets some more. Blade of Woe from the Dark Brotherhood, if you just get started on that, even if you don't care for the storyline, that Blade of Woe would be the most useful thing. And even if you didn't buy the DLC, if you just subbed and then you stopped subbing, as long as you actually started and unlocked the Blade of Woe, you'll still be able to use that. Going back to Legerdemain, there you go. Locksmithing is also somewhere that you're going to want to put your points, because you'll have treasure chests, you'll have safe boxes. I can't be bothered to deal with the mini games, so I always force the locks. Some people enjoy doing it the more difficult way. I don't have time for that.
It's nice to do sometimes, but yeah, it's kind of nice to just like E to open the chest, R to force the lock, hope for the best, and if not, just keep trying to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's annoying when you keep forcing and it doesn't open, but most of the time...
Always happens on the simple chests as well. I almost always force a master immediately, but simple chests, it's like, well, this is my 7th lockpick broken. Excellent, let's go.
Yeah, and then, like, when your locksmithing level is up that high, you don't go through lockpicks as much, and so I'm carrying around so much, I'm not using them as often as I did, and so they kind of build up. Like we were talking about with the chests and leaving stuff behind, you always want to loot everything in your chest. It doesn't matter about the dead bodies, but if it's a container, whether it's chest, safe box, a sack, take everything in there if you take anything, because otherwise, it doesn't reset for anybody. If you leave a lockpick behind, yeah, including you. If you leave a lockpick behind, that lockpick is going to stay there until somebody takes it. So you might as well just make it easier on yourself, especially if it's a treasure chest or safe box, because at least those will despawn after you take it, and then they will then respawn faster and you can loot some more. If you're a shoddy thief, then I suppose you might be interested in the kickback, so you can lower how much bounty you have to pay. Obviously, I don't have any points in there because I get a lot of leniency edicts and a lot of counterfeit pardons, so it's not a concern that I had because I can always get rid of my bounty other ways. But if you do actually have both DLCs, or if you can only have one of the DLCs, I'd probably suggest going for the Thieves Guild, because that is obviously, since it's geared towards thieving, it'll be more useful. So like these are the different options that you have. You know, you can decrease your bounty and your heat quicker. You can sell stuff for more to events. You have a chance of getting away easier. Kind of like Legerdemain, this isn't something that you can level passively though. You'll need to do the story quests, and in between those you can actually pick up daily heists and quests from a tip board. The best way to maximize your time for that is to do the crime sprees from the tip board, which you can pick up and abandon until you get to a spree. And then doing perfect heist, because those will all give you more XP for your time spent. Even better is because the heists are daily quests, if you group up with other people, then you'll be able to do more heists a day. And then you would want to level a Thieves Guild up until level 7, because that is, well, at least level 7 I should say. That is when you will unlock the Wedding Crashers story quest. And you can just farm that particular quest daily. It unlocks the Hubalajad Palace, which is in... let's go here. It is this area right here. The Hubalajad Palace is only available during this quest line. And so once you get inside the actual palace, there are a bunch of NPCs, no guards. So yeah, you'll get a bounty because you're trespassing, but there are no guards around, so you can just go around, you can loot everything, you can kill the NPCs and loot their bodies, and they respawn pretty quickly, and you can just keep doing that for as long as you want. That was actually probably the real turning point in my fortunes. Farmed that daily for, I don't know, a couple months, I think. You can only enter the palace like once a day. So it's a bit rough if maybe you have shitty internet. Because if you DC while you're in the palace, you will, when you log in, you'll be outside of the palace. You'll be right there at the entrance where a guard is stationed. And if you have a bounty, good luck knowing you.
Oh no!
Good luck knowing you. But, you know, the palace is instanced, so you're not going to be competing with anyone when you're inside. So all of that loot is just you. All of the NPCs just you. And so you can just do that until, you know, as long as you want.
So may I ask, just to clarify on that one, so is that a quest, like you said, it opens the Wedding Crasher, like, that particular quest, is it only open until you finish it, or is it open every day to you?
It's open until you finish it, but...
You can choose not to finish it, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So, you can, you know, once a day go in there, make sure your bags are empty, because once you leave, again, you're not going back in. Not that day, anyway. So, empty out your bags as much as you can, fill it up, thieving and pickpocketing, killing them all, and then go fence. And hopefully you got close to your fencing cap for the day. And then if you still have loot, you can get rid of that for the next day and then go back in and do it again. And it'll get you a lot of gold. I actually took my Magblade in there the other night and I got a few... I spent a few hours in there. I had empty bags and leveled up my Legerdemain a couple levels. And for someone that was below level 10, I think I made like 14k off of it, which was not bad. So, I mean, you can get lots of stuff.
I would definitely be okay with 14k with very little effort.
Yeah, it's not a whole lot of effort. You just run around killing people.
Which is always fun.
Yes. My bounty, on the other hand, once I logged out of it, was like 28k. And since I didn't have Swiftly Forgotten, my bounty went down very slowly, and actually when I logged in again like 12 hours later, I was still at like 18k bounty. I'm sure by now my bounty is cleared, but kind of can't go back in until I don't have a bounty. Yeah, it's a good way to like try to build out your foundation. You don't unlock this last passive, the Veil of Shadows, which is pretty cool. It also lowers your detection range, makes NPCs less likely to notice when you're, you know, being criminal scum. That unfortunately doesn't unlock until after you complete the whole storyline. So, I mean, you will miss out on that and maybe timely escape if you just sit there and farm the palace, but again, kind of depends on what you find important, getting the gold or finishing out the story. Up to you.
We'd have some mad completionist friends in that case.
Yeah, that's why I eventually, like, this tune can't go back there, because after a couple months of thieving in there every day, I got bored with it, and so I just went ahead and finished it.
That's fair enough, and you can always get other people as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Other characters, I should say.
Yeah, I've got a couple other characters that are going through it. Well, the Magblade is currently on that quest. I don't know where my others are in the storyline, but they will eventually get there too. And I can build up more gold that way too. So if you have the Dark Brotherhood and Thieves Guild, they both go hand in hand, although, you know, they obviously have different focuses, because this one focuses more on, obviously, murdering people. I would say the least helpful passive in this story DLC to help you with thieving is going to be Shadow Rider. Least helpful, because I mean it's helpful for me just running around the countryside, but when you're looking at thieving, it does nothing for you because you have to be mounted, and you're not likely to be doing that when you're thieving.
In some ways, that could be a really good passive for people doing PvP, like Cyrodiil and things like that, because even most hardcore farmers don't get on their mounts.
Yeah, I actually, if I'm grouped up with people and we're running around doing stuff, I tell them, you need to stop following directly behind me. Because I have this passive, and so I run through a group of bandits, and they don't react to me, but they will to the people behind me most likely. So it's like, stop following directly behind me. And then on top of that...
You can't sit with us! Stop following me!
And then on top of that, I'm a Bosmer, so I have damage mitigation if I fall. And then I always go on about strategic falling, which part of that is the damage mitigation. So it's like, if you follow directly behind me and I jump off a cliff, I can't guarantee that you're going to survive it.
I guarantee nothing. You will die a painful death.
Yeah. So Shadow Rider is the least helpful. Paramedic Sprint isn't... I don't find it to be that useful. All it does is allow you to run away quicker after killing someone. Which, I mean, that could be useful, but if you're somewhere like the Hubalajad Palace, there's nobody that you need to run away from. So a lot of times it's not that helpful. Unless maybe there's a guard nearby and you need to get away quickly. But, I mean, I only have 1 point in there because I actually can get the same boost from gear, I think. I was wearing gear a long time ago that gave me that for killing people too. So I don't find either of these skills to be that useful as far as thieving. But Scales of Justice, so that way, you know, your bounty doesn't get as high from your crime. And then the Shadowy Supplier is pretty cool too. She's the Bequeather. Doesn't talk, but if you go up to her, you can get various items. You can get alchemy mats from her. You can get these unmarked satchels. Unmarked sacks, which you open them, they have a monk's disguise in there. And you put that on, and now it's kind of like you're invisible. If you have a bounty, you can walk around town. At least for 5 minutes until it wears off. So hopefully you get somewhere safe while you're wearing it. Also, when you go and check in with her, she also drops furniture occasionally. So this light and shadow candle is actually something that I got from her. And it's 1 piece instead of 2. A lot of people think I put a candle on top of a skull, but no, that's actually something you get from the Bequeather. The Candles of Silence, which are the wine bottles with melted candles on it, you get it from her. I think there's like a vial of blood, a sacrificial heart. So she does have a chance to drop furniture along with the loot. So it's pretty cool to go and check in with her every day to try to get stuff.
Always nice to get free things.
Exactly. But just like, you know, the Thieves Guild, you don't level that passively. You have to do the story quest, you have to do perfect sacraments, and assassination sprees in order to level up and unlock all of these different skills. Spectral Assassin is kind of cool, but it has a very low chance of actually proccing. But you can kill somebody in front of a witness and not get a bounty. Some other mildly useful things. This character is actually a vampire, because once upon a time it used to be helpful for stamina characters. It's not anymore, but I wasted points in these passives. But one thing that's actually kind of still useful is the Dark Stalker. You can stealth a lot quicker, and then also I can actually that's almost as fast as if I was sprinting, when normally you'd be moving at a bit of a crawl when you're stealth. So that's really great. And like if you're thieving in towns where you got a lot of competition because other people want to thieve there too, you'll get around much faster. So that's nice. Figure out what the off-peak hours are, and you might want to go thieving then, because you know you'll have less competition, so you'll get more loot for your time spent. It's useful if you're an Aussie, because then you're on at times when most of the server is quiet.
I feel attacked.
This is actually something that Gez pointed out when I was talking to him about it. He's like, yeah, I can do all this thieving and get good loot because nobody else is around getting it from me. So.
It's the same with material farming mobs for XP, like pretty much anything you want to do as an Australian, because of the times that we're on. It's such a weird in-between time of people going to bed and getting up. Like when we are available to get on, which for most people is that late evening, we're set. Like we've got the whole server to ourselves almost. It's also why you see Cyrodiil change hands a lot at that time, because all the Australians get on, you know, all the Australian PvP guilds get on, you know, and they just take over because they're the only ones online. It's really interesting.
This character is a Nightblade, so one thing you might do when you're thieving is slot Dark Cloak. Well, Shadow Cloak, and then if you morph it, I would prefer the Dark Cloak one. So if you get caught and you need to make a quick getaway, just cast it. Actually, let me slot it right now. Just cast it, you'll be invisible, sort of, and allow you to get away. And if you're being chased by anyone, then the Dark Cloak will give you a little bit of protection at the end. So that way, it doesn't hurt so much when they kill or attack you. If you thieve in a group, because that can be fun sometimes, you will definitely, you definitely need to do the pick stab thing. Actually, what's more useful is if everybody will pick an NPC's pockets twice, and then you kill them, and then everybody gets the third drop from it. Otherwise, if you are in a group and then you kill it, well, if you're in a group and then you pick it twice and then kill it, everybody only gets one item, whereas you got 3 items. So that's something you want to think about too, if you're doing it in a group. I used to Rammy Milk in Vvardenfell used to be a really good place to thieve farm. That was a lot of fun. I made a lot of gold there. And it was popular.
The motifs that drop. Oof.
Yeah, and it was popular enough that you just walk into the temple and then ask if anyone's grouped up, and then you can immediately get in a group, and then, you know, everybody would pick, stab all of the NPCs. But they changed that, and it's very sad. Can't use that anymore. You can't even attack the NPCs. They are invisible or invincible, apparently.
Sadness.
They don't. They're like guards,
what do they call
except they don't.
NPCs?
They're amazing.
They're specific to the story type thing, and so you can't actually hurt them. It's very frustrating.
Have I done that story? I don't remember. I don't know.
That's what those particular NPCs. It's how they label them in game. It's how some of them, like, you know, like merchants that walk around you can't hurt, you can't pick. They label them as like necessary to the storyline in the game, and thus you can't hurt them, you can't pick them, can't do anything. So to stop people from doing what they were doing, that's what they did to those NPCs. They were like, well, now they're essential, you can't touch them. So,
which is silly because they respawn so quickly, so it's not like they were hurting the storyline, really.
no, but they didn't want the farming, I suppose. They just hate us.
Actually, from what I heard, somebody, and I think I know which streamer it was, advertised it. They showed it. It's like, hey, go do this and make a lot of gold, and obviously that caught Zos's attention.
Oh,
and
no!
Then the very next update that came out after that, it was gone. And what was even more annoying was they didn't even mention in the update that they were fixing that. Unlike
These
when they
frickin'
fixed
streamers, man, they ruin everything.
Yeah, I know. Gosh, you guys suck.
I know.
Hubalajad Palace actually used to be a much more popular thief farm than it is now, because it used to be the only place that dropped the skooma bubblers and the blueprints for that, and which sold for a lot. But now the bubblers can drop from other, like, drunkards or outlaws, other types of NPCs, and I don't think the blueprint is even in the game anymore. Not sure. But
yeah, I haven't seen it in a long while, so I'm not sure either.
I'm glad I learned it when I did.
always nom before you sell.
Yes. Also, thieving in a large area is typically better than thieving somewhere small. So, like, you might choose to go through a town rather than just a building, but it kind of depends on, obviously, the respawn rate. But if you go through a town, you might, start at the beginning, safe boxes, killing NPCs, whatever, and make your rounds, and then when you get back, you'll do that until your bags are full, but when you get back to wherever the start point is, everything will have reset. NPCs will respawn, safe boxes will probably have respawned, and then your bags are full, go fence, come back, and the containers will then also reset when you zone. You know, they'll be filled with loot again.
Mm-hmm.
Champion points, interestingly enough, can be helpful with thieving. If you go to the shadow, it doesn't matter. I mean, whatever your build says, put it in these points, but make sure that you put in enough to, one, you want to unlock Fortune Seeker, which is pretty easy. It'll give you more gold from drops. The chests and the safe boxes, that is. And then also, this applies more to treasure chests than it does safe boxes, but the treasure hunter perk is pretty useful too, because obviously, I mean, if you're thieving, you might come across bandits with a treasure chest. It's nice to get better quality loot from that. So I have enough points, regardless of my build, I put enough points to at least unlock both of those. Eventually, after you've been thieving, you will need to go fence if you don't have the smuggler, which I got my smuggler. She's over here. You get her from the Thieves Guild storyline. I don't like to use her, though, because she takes a 35% cut. I guess that's nice if you're full and you can't get to a white shrine or a refuge or something, but I don't really see a need for her. So I will just, you can either use the counterfeit pardons that I mentioned, or the edicts, or the disguise, or you can just do a random port. Maybe you'll go to Alakir. That's my favorite place to go to, because then you'll be at some way shrine, get over to Sentinel, and you got the refuge right there by the way shrine, and there aren't any guards around, so you can get there very easily without getting caught. Anvil and Gold Coast is also a place, because it's right there too. So those are like the two best places to go to. Try to port to when you're when you have a bounty. Other places that are not as good for various reasons. Maybe they're further away. Maybe there's a guard that you need to try to avoid, but are still useful. You can go to Daggerfall and Glenumbra, but if you do that one, you'll want to go to this outside way shrine, and then run from there to the outside entrance. Evermore in Bankarai has 2 way shrines, so if you get to the right one, you'll want to be at that one, and then there's the entrance right there. You can go to Ralcott and Reaper's March, but that's more useful if either you or a friend has the Sleek Creek house, and you can just run from there to, the entrance, one of these entrances.
I was just about to ask you about that, because one of my officers has that set as his house.
Yeah, I know some people that would like to use that, and it's an easy run. Or even if you're running into the inside entrance, which is underneath the house, as long as you avoid a guard, because there is a guard that patrols this area, it's not too hard. But there's obviously a closer entrance to that house, so that's another good one to go to. The Thieves' Den in Hughesbane isn't too bad. You just... because the entrance isn't that far away from the way shrine. The only problem is there is a guard that goes near the way shrine, and sometimes if he's running by because he caught somebody else committing a crime, you might get caught in that. But that's also fairly decently located. You can do Stormhold in Shadowfen, because actually the entrance isn't that far away. You can just run around the back. There aren't any guards, but there are crocodiles, so you do actually have to pay attention to the environment too. Make sure you're not being chased or attacked by anything when you do it. And Vivek City in Vvardenfell is also another popular one if you just skirt around the outside and then avoid the guards that way. So those are some good places to go to if you need to go fence while you have a bounty. If you do have a bounty and you get caught by a guard and they kill you, you will lose your loot, and you will also lose all the gold for the bounty. They will take it off your cold dead body. You won't have a bounty when you revive, but that's only because you already paid for it. Now, you can try to get around that by putting your gold in the bank, so that way if they kill you, you only lose the loot, but then you're still going to have a bounty when you revive. So, my advice would be to not get caught and don't get killed.
Get good.
Exactly, get good. So, like, I've obviously spent some time on this and, have a lot of points and all invested in all this. So, like, with all this maxed out, I make anywhere between 20 to 25k in about an hour and a half just from the treasures. That depends obviously on the quality of the loots that I'm picking up. I do from green and up. I had a friend who would do from blue and up. But I feel like in order to make the same, I would have to spend more time if I were to like try to, hit my limit if I was just doing blues and purples, or in the very least, I would have to, it would just take longer for me, is my point. So I do greens and up, and that's fine enough with me. And so it's 20 to 25k before even incidentals. And like I mentioned, I got this really cool blueprint earlier, and that's gonna get me like another 150k. So it's very useful. I'm not gonna eat this just because it still sells really well. Otherwise, I would be spending my time learning, farming these to learn. But since it still sells for a lot, that's where I'm gonna go and put.
Yeah, pro tip when it comes to trading is, whilst things are selling and they're hot, even if you don't know them, sometimes it is worth, if you need the gold, to actually just sell things.
Yeah, I've
Prime
definitely.
example is them putting Somerset plans onto the RIT voucher vendors, and some of those plans went from 4 to 700k down to 30k within a matter of 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah,
So
I've definitely lost out on gold by deciding to learn something, even though I could have sold it. Um, like the Skoomer Bubbler blueprint, if I had sold it when I first found it, I could have gotten probably 2 or 300k. But I learned it, and it took a while before I found it again, and that was only somewhere around like 75k that I got for it, maybe less. I think it was actually less. I think it was more like 60k that I got. So probably a good idea to go ahead and sell it first while it's still worth a lot, and then you can always buy it back later or put in the time to find it again, and it will have been cheaper and you still made a lot of gold. Some good places to thieve, I had mentioned before, is you'll go to Stormhold. That one has a ton of safe boxes if you just run around all of the vendors and the fighters and mages guild. A lot of that building alone, I think, has like 4 safe boxes in there. So if you just run around the city opening up safe boxes, and by the time you get back to the beginning, they should have respawned, so that's a nice place to go thieving. Banks can sometimes be good places. Most of the Imperial motifs that I found were in banks. I think, I don't know if maybe it's just because it's an expensive place and so more expensive loot, I don't know. Not all banks are created equal though, so you'll obviously want to pay attention to the ones that have more containers to thieve from, rather than, you know, some, I think Bankerai Bank only has like 2 things you can, 2 containers in there, so I wouldn't even waste my time going there. I'd go to Kavach, because you have an upstairs and a downstairs. So, you want to think about that. Dragonstar Village, a lot of NPCs, also some safe boxes and heavy stacks, but mainly because the NPCs go around, kill them all, and then when you get back to the beginning, you'll have, actually let me show you. Dragonstar Village is in Craglorn, so up in this corner here. Just go around, make a loot, and then they'll be back. Rimmen is a nice place in northern Elsewhere. Go around the whole town, safe boxes, NPCs, go to the different buildings. Some good loot drops there too. Some nice furnishings from what I hear. I picked up a rolling pin in one of these buildings once, so that was awesome. There's a particular house in Alinor that I spent a lot of time in. Let me pull that up. It's got 6 NPCs and 4 safe boxes, and the NPCs are more of the higher level, like merchants and nobles, so greater chance to get good loot from there. So it's right down the road from the bank, so it'll be right here. Go in there. You can go up every level and then kill them, and by the time you're done with the top level, the bottom will have respawned, and you just keep doing that. And you might get blueprints. Some nice blueprints that you can then sell. The St. Dylan Canton in Vivec is a nice place because you have all the containers from the different buildings, and then hang on. Yeah, so this canton right here is a good one. Make the rounds in there, and then you can just drop down, because actually the other entrance for the refuge is in this canton, so just drop down. You can avoid a guard that way and go in through there. That's also where there's a priest in there, so I've gotten a couple of incense sticks off of the priest. Took a while to get them. Also in
they
Vivec,
work really well as a furnishing in your Vvardenfell map. So like stick it in there so that the volcano actually smokes.
I've actually put mine. I put it in an actual incense burner because, you know, I wanted it to fit. I think what I wound up doing was one of the other incense items for the Vvardenfell map. I mean, anything that smokes, it's gonna be good. And I think those sticks sell for around 20k. Or at least they used to, I don't know if they still do. The library over here in the temple canton is a good place. There are 4 NPCs, there are no guards in there. And so if you're farming for the Great House motifs, you can just go around there and usually within an hour you'll get something and then, you know, pop a disguise, go fence and launder, and then go about your merry little way. Lil Moth is a nice place. I've gone farming there. Lil Moth is in Murkmire. There are a lot of containers in all these buildings and some safe boxes, and also a chance to get green blueprints and worms. So if you fish, or if you just want to sell the bait to other people who fish, worms.
And gosh, does that sell well?
Yeah, worms sell well, and then in Lil Moth you can get somewhere between 1 and 2 dozen worms per run around the town, which is a lot faster than trying to farm undead. So that's another place. Abaz Landing, which we mentioned even without going to Hubalajad's Palace, because there are safe boxes, there are hiding spots. It's the only place in this game that has, like, you can move a stone and there'll be something hidden in there. And there is a lot of that in this town. And then currently my favorite place right now is to go to Solitude because of the blueprints, which still sell for a lot. So I got myself a nice circuit around town. I go around like 2 levels, thieve, then go fence. Sometimes I'll fence in town, sometimes I'll go to Alakir because I got a high bounty. Because people are very touchy about me taking their stuff. I don't know why.
Don't know why.
If they didn't want me to take it, they shouldn't have had it. I have made my fortunes off of thieving. My first house, Matissan, that's like 1.4 million, I think. And yeah, I funded that with thieving. I bought it.
Paid for it with blood.
Yes, I paid for it with blood. Blood and stolen items.
Exactly.
And I furnished it that way too.
The only way you can afford furnishings.
Exactly.
For sure.
So it's very lucrative. So yeah, I hope you guys learn some things and make a lot of gold. And I want to hear about any success stories you get, because I've gotten a lot of Solitude prints by running around town that way. I've gotten some
Thank you so much
purples.
for sharing your
Yeah.
amazing stuff as well. Like, I'm a terrible thief. Anyone that's ever seen me do it, I get caught all the time. So I'll be sure to actually study up on this now.
You don't have to put a whole lot of effort into it. It's just, do you have the skill points? And I have a shit ton of extra skill points right now.
I need those. Please
yeah.
send my way.
It just depends on what you want to spend your time on. And if you're, into housing, then,
You need gold.
Exactly. So yeah, I hope everyone had a good time, and thanks for watching.